All right, for this part of the case study, we're going to demonstrate, I think we're going to demonstrate 3 exercises. We're going to look at what we did with the SC joint, and then we're going to look at where we're going to go with hip internal and external rotation. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate the SC joint normalization, mobilization, whatever you want to call it, and then we immediately need to retest his medial rotation extension. In this case, we did get some very, very dramatic movement. All I'm looking for is that if you can get a little bit of improvement from a little bit of intervention, then we're going to stick with it. Anytime there's an issue with the shoulder, remember you got 4 joints. You got the SC joint, the AC joint, you've got scapulothoracic, glenohumeral, and then additionally you've got first rib, maybe second rib if that's in play, and of course the neck. Obviously the other side, you can start to, depending how progressive you are in your thinking, I mean anything can be anything at the end of the day. This exercise can be done sitting. This exercise can be done kneeling with some hip external rotation, and it can be done standing if you were to lock out, stand with hip internal rotation. Maybe a better idea to lock out any motion from standing in terms of pelvic tilt or any nutations or rotations of the sacrum. Now, let's also appreciate that for the SC joint, the sternoclavicular joint, it's a saddle joint where, like our thumb, it has an opening and closing ×2. So anytime we will close the back, we open the front. The opening is really what we're trying to accomplish here. The gapping and the creation of space is really what this series of exercises are ideally going to be doing. But now I'm also closing in the rear. Then we'll do a different approach for opening in the rear, but closing in the front. Okay? Now, here's our game plan. So if I'm standing, I've got I know you can't see through the video, but what I just did was internally rotate. I'm tucking my tail, easy knees, and what I think I'm doing is just basically minimizing any variable contribution from my pelvis, SI, and hips. If I'm going to be treating the right side, I'm going to begin by putting my right arm out. And as we primarily look to intervene at the joint by creating tension through the fascia, one of the common rules that we will see with the upper extremity is that we will typically be externally rotated and wrist extended, fingers wide, okay? You see my limitation in external rotation, but you're always looking to be maxed and you're looking to be very, very high tension. We're going to get long through the spine, neck is packed aggressively. So as we do these exercises, we're basically looking to create tension everywhere except the joint. Now here's a gimmick where, and then I'll show you what to do with the other hand as well, but we're going to swallow until you can't swallow any further, because again, as you go through the muscular motion of the swallowing, we are tensioning around the fascia around the SC joint, okay? Your other arm is very similar position, but you're holding it down by your side. I'd like to say that you're looking to hold something down, like there's a spring that's going to come up and you're going to hold it down. You're tall, long, neck is packed, okay? I'll assume that I have swallowed until I can't swallow anymore. I am going to protract as far as I can go, and as I breathe in, inhale, I'm looking to go further. I'm going to relax when I exhale, but not come back. I keep my new place. I'm not twisting, I'm staying square. Inhale, reach. Exhale, relax. Inhale, reach. Exhale, relax. And when we go that direction, we're looking to mobilize the anterior part of the SC joint, okay? So now when we go to the opposite, what we'll do is retract, where we should be addressing the posterior component, and you switch up the tension relaxation. The tension is now on the exhalation. and not the inhalation. So again, I'll fake it with the swallow so I can talk. Okay, so now I'm going to inhale. Exhale is on my first repetition where I pull back. And I pull back again on the exhale, whatever I can get. I'm increasing tension. I'm constantly creating tension into external rotation, wrist extension, fingers wide. Same on the bottom, but I'm holding it down by my side. Neck is packed, looking to get long as possible. To think that this protraction and retraction, while we're describing the position of the scapula, if you keep, if as a therapist, if it's appropriate, to put your fingers here to get the individual to feel that there's actually some motion happening at this sternoclavicular joint. So again, for the posterior portion of the saddle joint of the SC, the excess tension, where you may not get any movement after the first repetition, is happening on the exhalation. So I breathe in and I pull on the exhale. And we're going to immediately retest. So that's what we're going to look at for the SC joint. All right, for hip internal and external rotation at the joint, where we're looking to create, if this is my acetabulum and this is my femoral head, we're looking to create motion that tractions or distracts the femoral head, and then internal and then external, almost like you're trying to unscrew a cap or a cork, where we get that figurative sound that you're looking for. Now, I'm in half kneeling. We'll start with a position that really puts you into a mild hip stretch on the down side. The back foot ideally is dorsiflexed, and I'll say easy in, meaning we have a little bit of inversion through the foot. Okay. If you also evert, it may have a use. We're just creating tension. Again, if you've learned this model, I'm doing it the way I feel like doing it. I don't know that it always needs to be every single way by the book. And you could also have your foot relaxed. You're just not going to get the fascial tension that we hope to be generating up towards the hip. Okay, now this is going to be our start position for internal rotation. So we're going to be tall, neck packed, and long. Now we're going to have pressure on the inside of the foot, which then takes the whole system inwards. We're going to continue with that. I'm going to show you on my shorts. This is a little bit esoteric, where I'm looking to create, I'm exaggerating the motion here on my skin and on my shorts. And then I'm going to create this in, out, in, to almost be able to pull in your mind, the thought process is to be able to take the femoral head out and turn inwards. Okay, now we're tall, we're long, there's a stick that goes out of both sides. So we're creating tension that way, we're creating tension this way. When people are athletic and can get it and feel it, you'll kind of feel the pelvic floor traction. Remember, that's the ideal direction of motion of the pelvic floor, is not this up and down action, but this trampoline being kind of tensioned laterally or bilaterally. Okay, so I've got the stick that pulls apart. I've got my inside foot down. I've got the shorts turned in and I'm out. And now I have significant tension on both this leg and this leg from the stick. And I'm trying to create that motion here. Now, you do not need to move into the arms. If you can, then the side that has the knee up, the side where the knee is phasic, the side where the knee is treating. We have forward arm parallel to the ground, external rotation, wrist extension, and then the other side is coming straight up. Another way to remember it is like you're grabbing your knee and throwing it up to the ceiling, okay? That's how you'll use that for the hip, internal and external. So again, hip stretch, Pogo stick kind of pulls out to the side, inside a foot, rotation here, pushing out. It's challenging. Sometimes you get your hands on the person and give them reasons to feel what you're looking for. Forward arm and here, and now we're looking to improve hip internal rotation on the right side, okay? So again, once again, tall, hip stretch on the downside. You got some action on the back foot, eversion or inversion. In your mind, you're going to make this stick. One goes to the left, one goes to the right. Pressure on the inside of the foot, rotate. It's a very small motion. It's not something you can really measure. And then push out against the knee. We're going in, we're going out, and we're going in. If we are going to use the arms, this side, and then we're looking to hold. And when you coach, we look to go around the horn with all the different areas, because if you're going to nail this position, ideally it can be as long as a minute. I don't ever care if anybody gets to a minute, but ultimately I'd like you to get as long as you can, up to a minute. You're always going to be having the ideal breathing pattern. That breathing pattern is with the umbilicus moving forward and downwards. It's with the flanks coming out. If you're creating so much tension where you can't breathe, we're making a mistake. So one thing that you can try with any of these types of drills, or anytime breathing is involved, try a 2-second hold in between the inhalation and the exhalation. And what we can get after there is that if you can't do that, you're either in the wrong place, your movement, your setup is not ideal, or you're just creating too much tension. You shouldn't be making blue face or angry face. We should be able to get this action, and we're looking to improve rotation here. External rotation is really very, very similar. You're going to get open as wide as you can, and then even if it takes you a little bit and you come back inwards, that's okay. That's not the end of the world. Now, this cannot cause pain. This should not cause, loss of balance, but you get out as big as you can where the heel is even with your knee. Square back up. If that comes back in, that's totally fine. Now, the stick is from the knee to the hip. We get long and wide, where we're not moving the knee towards there, we're not moving the hip, but we're trying to create tension this way, almost like we're spreading the floor in a big squat. That in itself might be something, but again, we're looking to treat the hip here, but by default, this one won't feel as esoteric. You're going to be creating a common feel that you felt before when we use this open half kneeling position. So now, pressure outside of foot, external rotation, and back. So now we're looking to create this action with our first movement, and then external rotate, 1, 2, and 3. It's not that crisscross pattern, but rather here, everything's going back. Let's grab onto the knee, let's throw it to the ceiling, and let's bring here, and I'm now creating tension in my both arms. Neck is packed, 1, 2, and outside of foot. So you got hip internal rotation, external rotation. If our guy just used those, and we're going to whiteboard a lot of other options, but now you have an example where if you take this out of context, which is totally fine, it's why we're trying to do these case studies in different parts. If you find a need for the sternoclavicular joint, you've got the drill. If you have a need for hip external and internal rotation, you've got the drill. And then you can tumble and stack manual therapy of your choice, but also then creating mobilizations that are more targeted to individual muscles that you think are impacting the fascia. What I just showed you were joint-based techniques. There are also muscle-based techniques, but again, remember, I didn't have a ton of time here. He was already irritated. I was disappointed in what I saw, so I didn't want to be, trying to add to anybody's frustration. These are the exercises that we try to go after here, because the tissue, if we treated the muscle with exercise, I kind of feel like I would want a needle first. I'd want to get some therapy in there first to see that the tissue would be more responsive. The joint techniques are about as close to mimicking what we can accomplish with manipulative therapy that I know of. So very, very powerful techniques. So if we can get some action out of those, especially in a one-off, let's get that first. Let's create some confidence. Let's show that, hey, if a little bit did this much, imagine what a lot would do. So there's our part 2, SC joint, anterior, posterior, hip internal, hip external.